Marjorie Taylor Greene has just stunned Donald Trump by joining Democrats with some harsh criticism over the bombings in Iran, and I have all the details and much more coming up next. Let's jump into the much more part first. In a post on X, she expressed fear that Trump's actions have left the United States vulnerable to terrorist attacks, and she fears for U.S. soldiers. Her post on X said, "Let us join together and pray for the safety of our U.S. troops and Americans in the Middle East. Let us pray that we are not attacked by terrorists on our own homeland after our border was open for the past 4 years and over 2 million gotaways came in. Let us pray for peace." And being a Trump loyalist, of course she had to blame Joe Biden for anything that might happen in the future. But Marjorie Taylor Greene shouldn't fear terrorism because Trump only hires the best and most qualified people, right? Wrong. Have a look at this unbelievable footnote when it comes to Trump's anti-terrorism team, and on the other side, I'll share the damaging thing Greene said about Trump's illegal bombing of Iran. Just today, Senator Chris Murphy posted, "As our nation girds for possible Iranian terrorist attack, this is the person Trump put in charge of terrorism prevention. 22 years old, recent work experience, landscaping, grocery clerk, never worked a day in counterterrorism. But he's a big Trump fan, so he got the job."
To show you how much the Trump administration cares about keeping the country safe, check out who they just appointed to lead the Department of Homeland Security's, one of their hubs for terrorism prevention. This guy. This is 22-year-old Thomas Fugate, who literally graduated from college last year. And according to his LinkedIn, the bulk of his leadership experience comes from his participation in a club that simulates the United Nations. I am not kidding. Nothing wrong with those clubs, but you're not ready to be in charge of a counterterrorism hub a year later. But pivotally, no threat prevention experience is listed in his employment history. So what exactly made Mr. Fugate right for the role? As ProPublica put it in a new piece, Fugate brings a different qualification prized by the White House: loyalty to the president. On Instagram, Mr. Fugate traced his political awakening to 2016, which, by the way, he was 13 years old, where he said, quote, "In a generation deprived of hope, opportunity, and happiness, I saw in one man the capacity for real and lasting change, Donald Trump." Now, just last year, Mr. Fugate spent some time down in Florida celebrating Trump's 78th birthday as part of a fan group called Club 47. People inside DHS said that Mr. Fugate was hired less to run the agency and more as a minder or a babysitter, saying, quote, "The White House installed Fugate to oversee a pivot away from traditional counterterrorism lanes and to steer resources toward MAGA-friendly sheriffs and border security projects before eventually shuttering operations."
A 22-year-old is in charge before shuttering operations. No wonder Marjorie Taylor Greene is sounding the alarm. And speaking of that, here's her other message that was critical of Trump's move against Iran, not unlike almost every Democrat, but in her case, she was careful not to mention her Messiah by name. She said, "Every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer." And I didn't have to go very far to find another prominent Republican who agreed. Enter Representative Thomas Massie, who had this to say this morning after posting that Trump's act was unconstitutional.
The Speaker of the House, who is from your own party, has really rejected this. He says the Article 1 power of Congress really allows for the president to do this. It was a limited, necessary, targeted strike, he says.
Well, he's probably referring to the War Powers Act of 1973, but that's been misinterpreted. There was no imminent threat to the United States, which was what would authorize that. And I think that's peculiar to hear that from the Speaker of the House. Look, Congress was on vacation last week when all this was happening.
You haven't been briefed on any of
We
the details.
haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back. And frankly, we should have debated this War Powers resolution that Ro Khanna and I offered instead of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers and saying, oh, well, the president's got this under control. We're going to cede our constitutional authority. What he promised us was we would put America first. And I think there are still voices in this administration. You've still got J.D. Vance. You've still got Tulsi Gabbard. You still RFK Jr. You still got calmer heads that could prevail.
They were not persuasive in this case, clearly.
If you look at my colleagues' feeds now, they all look the same. They're all tweeting the same message that we've got to support Israel and we've got to do this. My question is, does 3 bombings and we're done with Iran's nuclear ambitions? Is that the 2 weeks to slow the spread of 2025? Is this, we were told 2 weeks to slow the spread then. Now we're told it's just going to take 3 bombings. But what happens when Israel gets bombed again? Is Trump going to sit by and say, no, we're not going to further engage in this war?
This is where I usually share my commentary, but for this story, I'll give the final word to the most prominent Republican of all to share his thoughts on a war with Iran.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. I want to see the Middle East get back to peace and real peace, but a peace that's going to be a lasting peace. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.